individually and ask questions, or maybe some things that are mentioned this evening and you want to go through it with us. And you're very welcome to do that at any stage of the day, with or without your child or children, either online or in person. So we'll go through tonight's presentation, which probably will last about 35 minutes, and then there'll be plenty of time for questions. And I suppose the context of tonight is that some of you will have been through this before, but as in all things, technology fails as I try to press the button. Can you advance that for me at all? How do I? Is there? No. Terribly embarrassing, I didn't switch it on. But best to be honest. Okay, so the options booklet is a very comprehensive booklet, lots of guidance in there, lots of technical comments and information about every single subject. So it serves as a really useful reference point for you. And what I would do in the coming weeks, if I was in your position, is I would work through that with my son or daughter and refer back to the points that we've made this evening. Some of the things in there can be quite technical and quite subject specific. So at any point in time, if you need any more help with that, you can either get that directly through your son or daughter and their teacher, or indeed you can come and speak to their teacher or to the head of department. But that's really where most of the information that will be relevant to subject choice is based. Now, the points I was making about a changing world, we all know that when you enrolled your child here in year 1, you probably assumed that they would go through the English school and 95% of them would go to university in the UK. Well, for your year group, it's probably going to be more like 80 to 85%, because some of them already will have made their mind up. You will have made arrangements for that to be the case. But Brexit has changed things quite significantly. And one of the points that Mrs. Shoddy will guide you to is a very useful piece of software called Unifrog. And what Unifrog does is it gives you guidance to every course taught in every university in the world. But it can be channeled and filtered down to look at English language courses in Europe, English language courses for medicine in Europe. So suddenly all of those questions that you have about where can you study engineering in the Netherlands, what courses are available through the medium of English, all of that can be answered very, very quickly. And students last year, our graduates from 2021, we did notice that they're beginning to have a wider range of universities, not just the UK and the US as is traditional, but also into the Netherlands, to Greece, to Ireland, to France, and we expect that that will grow in the coming years. And that does have implications for subject choice, and it also has implications for us as a school. As you'll appreciate, in year 6, we no longer take AS examinations, and the reason for that is because in linear subjects, they have been phased out. So the competitors for your children, as you know, are not in this school. They're in the UK and international students as well, and they don't study AS examinations. So what we have done in the course of the last year is change the nature of our year 6 to try to have, albeit with the restrictions that come along, a greater emphasis on skills development. So more analysis, more creativity, more time for the children to think and work independently. And these are the sorts of things that we're trying to do to make sure that we can assist them as much as we possibly can do. As regards the post-Brexit, we have a lot of information, and Mrs. Shoddy will touch on it as well. She's in the process of putting together a new how-to guide for European universities, dealing with all of their European universities, and then we will also have a further question and answer session on that, and links to some of our students who are studying there already. I think for your sons and daughters, the biggest challenge, first of all, the biggest challenge is they're in year 5, and as we all know, it's a very difficult year. I often wonder, you know, who on earth devised examinations when they were in the middle of those lovely teenage years. It's not easy for them. But the challenge for them when they move into next year is not only do they have to get qualifications, but they also need to build up a wider portfolio of skills. And that has an impact very much on subject choice. Now, as you know, in year 6, and Ms. Pantelides will elaborate more on this in a moment or two, the 4 AS subjects, the 4 year 6 subjects that the students study, gives them a full and a broad and balanced curriculum. And as you make that choice, what you should try to do is try to see if some of the skills that we're mentioning can be addressed through those subjects. And what I mean by that is, you know your sons and daughters best. So they may be very mathematical, and they may need to develop some of their communication skills. So you might choose 3 subjects that reflect their mathematical skills, and the 4th subject might help them to develop some of their interpersonal skills, some of their communication skills. And this is the challenge. It's not just simply a case of my older brother or sister did these 4 AS subjects and is now doing very well at a university. It's about trying to look a little bit further forward, because now universities more frequently are having a large number of aptitude tests, a large number of interviews, and the skills, or cognitive skills, the intrapersonal skills, and the interpersonal skills are very, very valued at that point in time. So as you look through the subject choice booklet, as you talk to your son or daughter, some of the ideas that you might want to explore are, how do we do these, what would seem diametrically opposed things, gain qualifications, but at the same time boost our skills. In terms of Brexit and languages, again, Ms. Pantelides will mention a little bit about that to you as well. There are many ways in which languages can be developed, not only through IGCSE qualifications, but also through qualifications from the European Framework of Languages. And we're very happy as a school to provide additional language courses in the afternoons if there is sufficient demand for from students. And that's a very, I think, a very good offer, and one that you might want to bear in mind, because university direction may not become clear in year 5 or year 6. It might be more into year 7. And we can do anything in that regard. We can put on German lessons, French lessons, Dutch, in order to help students survive. And of course, the courses they will do at university will be delivered in the medium of English. Now, the last point I want to make is the one thing that the English school students all share in common is, and they don't often realise this, they are very, very capable. They don't need all of the extra lessons that they tend to look at outside of school. What they should focus more on is their skills development, things through extracurricular activities, things through Duke of Edinburgh, things like Formula 1. These are the skills that will really make the difference when it comes to the world of employment. And you will hear lots, and many of you will ask questions, but the level of achievement of the students is exceptional. And what we want to help them to do is to stand out that little bit more when it comes to that next stage. So the message for me is a fairly clear one. This process, you have time. It's not until February that we'll be looking for answers back from students. And as I said to them yesterday, they have completely free choice. They can choose any subject and any combination of subject. And we do make our timetable quite early on to try to allow that and to facilitate that. And that's a very good place to be in, but they need a lot of help and guidance, because if they don't get it right at the start, it can make year 6 and the transition to year 6 a little bit more difficult. And of course, what we want is to have as smooth a transition as possible. So I'll hand you through now to Ms. Pantelides, who will go through the programme in a bit more detail. And then, of course, we're very happy to answer any questions at the end. Thank you very much. Absolutely, no problem.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. So we're going on to the Year 6 program now. So in Year 6, students are expected to do 4 subjects. It's a compulsory program. All students will be required to sit the school end-of-year examinations in order to progress to Year 7. As the headmaster says, we no longer do ASs across the board. We, in fact, do 2 ASs only in computer science and geography because they are modular subjects. Okay, there's a very strong rationale behind this being a 4-subject course. It gives the students a great deal of flexibility, and it's also linked to stronger academic performance in Year 7. Obviously, they will have a choice at the end of Year 6 to drop one subject, and often the subject that the children think at the beginning of the year they're going to drop, by the end of the year, they have a completely different impression. So it gives them a little bit more flexibility. Also, we find that our universities like this breadth, a little bit more academic breadth. Additionally, students will continue to study Greek or Turkish and sit their GCE at the end of Year 6. This is very important because it links to the Apolytirion, which I'm going to talk about shortly. Okay, right. In Year 7, students will continue with 3 of their option subjects. As I said before, the A-levels taught at this school are linear, with the exception of geography and computer science. This means that students will be examined externally in their chosen subjects at the end of Year 7. Grades are A star to U. Obviously, most of our students get A star, A, B, and just a very small sprinkling of C's. Technically, a pass is considered anything from A star to E. Just a note there that all qualifications must be included on students' UCAS applications. So it's not possible for them to cut out, for example, a C they've got when they apply through UCAS, because this is UCAS policy, and it's worth bearing that one in mind. Okay, now we get on to the subject of students who decide, for whatever reason, to choose to sit an alternative specification. Obviously, we have our program here at school, and it's very robust. It's flexible in terms of the range of students, subjects we offer, but it's also robust in terms of its academic standards and processes. And to be honest, this is one of the reasons why we have such a good reputation with many very competitive universities, because they know us, they know that they can trust our academic qualifications, and they have confidence in the procedures that we use. Okay. So, if students choose to sit alternative specifications, and sometimes students who choose to take lessons outside the school through private tutors do this, such as they take IAL, we have to let you know now that this is at their own risk. For example, we cannot list non-school qualifications on students' leaving certificates. That's obvious because we don't teach them. So how could we list on a leaving certificate something we don't teach? Additionally, if a student sits a non-school qualification in Year 7, for example, IAL physics or IAL maths that we don't teach, we cannot include this on their Apolytirion for the same reason, because we don't teach IAL maths or IAL physics, for example. So, just to clarify again, students who need to have completed 3 GCE courses in school in Year 7, including the internal, the mocks and the other assessments, and the external exams assessment, to be eligible for a ministry-endorsed Apolytirion. This is very important, and it's a ministry requirement, obviously, that what we list on our Apolytiria are actually what the students study at the school. Now, I'm just going on a little bit more about this because some people, it's quite complicated and they like a little bit more detail. So again, in order to be issued with a Republic of Cyprus Ministry of Education stamped Apolytirion, which we introduced for the first time last year with a great deal of success, because many of our students use this qualification in applying to universities. It was a great benefit to them. For example, some universities said, okay, we'll have 2 A's and a 19 in your Apolytirion. It took the pressure off many students in terms of getting, for example, 2 A's and an A star. They had the Apolytirion to help them. So the Apolytirion is a very useful qualification. However, they must keep with the school regulations on this, which are approved and regulated by the ministry. So they must follow 3 GCE courses at school throughout Year 7, including all internal assessments, sit the school programme internal and external exams. A student who doesn't complete all components of the school programme, including the relevant school programme external exams, will not be eligible for the Apolytirion. Of course, they also need to complete their Year 7 PSHCE course, Personal, Social, Health and Citizenship Education course, and they need to have completed their GCE Greek or Turkish. Okay. Right. So now we're going on to specific subjects prerequisites. So logically, students need to have the IGCSE in the subject in order to progress to Year 6. Normally, we expect a grade 7, which is like the old grade A. Remember, the grades go from 1 to 9. So we expect a minimum of level 7 in order to progress into A level. This means they have a strong foundation in the subject and are therefore likely to succeed. If a student has a grade 6, which is an old B, entry will be at the discretion of the head of department. And normally in these cases, we look at a student's performance over the previous 2 years. We have some subject-specific minimum IGCSE requirements. For example, economics or business studies, we require economics grade 7, maths grade 7, and English language grade 6. And grade 6 is the old B in the old system. Geography, we need geography grade 7 and English grade 6. And for further or double mathematics, we need IGCSE grade 8 and AQA further maths with a minimum 7. I have to stress at this point that the vast majority of students achieve these grades, so they're not something unrealistic at all. Okay, I'm going to pass on now to Mrs. Ashodis, who'll talk about university prerequisites, and if you've got questions, we'll come back to them at the end.
Thank you, Mrs. Pandelides. Okay, so hello from me. It's nice to be back presenting face-to-face again, rather than through a computer. So my name is Nadasa Ashodi, and I'm responsible for the Careers Office. And we've been seeing in the Careers Office lots of Year 5 students who primarily, the reason behind our meetings is so that they can see where our office is, to see who we are, and sort of make us accessible to them. And another reason we've been having these meetings is just to ensure that, not so much that they know what they want to do, because the vast majority of students at this age don't know what they want to do later on in life, and maybe not even at university. Even the ones that think they know what they want to do will often change their mind. So please don't worry if your son or daughter doesn't know what they want to do. What is important, though, is that they know from now what restrictions they might have if they don't choose certain subjects. So the good thing is that there are thousands and thousands of courses available to them. It's not just the common courses that we hear about, such as law and engineering and medicine. There are thousands of courses out there, both in the UK and the rest of Europe, and certainly even more in terms of combinations of courses. And very few of these courses require specific subjects. So it's very difficult for things to go wrong. So I'm going to highlight for you some of these courses. The first is medicine. I think this is sort of quite common in the sense that most people know that students require chemistry and biology to study medicine. There may be some universities that will accept them just with chemistry, but if they don't have biology as well at A-level, they're very restricted in terms of choice, university choice. And because medicine is so competitive, we want to make sure that no doors are closed to any university come the time for them to apply. So they must have chemistry and they should have biology also. By default, most students that apply for medicine will also have maths. And if they will be looking at countries outside of the UK to apply for medicine, and more specifically the Netherlands, then they will need to also have physics up to at least AS level. Now, I know you may be wondering, you don't do AS levels. That's not a problem. They're going to be studying the subject in year 6, so they must choose it for year 6. And then they can request permission from the exams office to take the AS level exam. And we're quite happy to accommodate that. So they'll have their 3 A levels, let's say maths, chemistry, biology, and they'll also have physics up to AS level, which means they can apply pretty much anywhere they want for medicine. So for engineering, the 2 subjects that they must have are maths and physics. They need to also have chemistry if they want to do chemical engineering. So if a student doesn't know which engineering course they want to do and they like chemistry and perhaps chemical engineering might be an option, they can study maths, physics and chemistry for A-level. They don't have to have further maths. A lot of students will choose further maths because they're good at maths, and you can apply for engineering with double maths, further maths and physics. Another reason why further maths is useful is because it will help them once they're at university studying engineering, because there's a lot of maths, particularly in year 1 and 2. So if they're thinking about engineering, then they could take maths, further maths, physics, chemistry for year 6. And when the time comes for them to decide which 3 A levels to continue with, which will be sort of in February of next year, or rather the year after, then they can drop one of the 4. For architecture, art and design and related degrees, they must have a portfolio of work. And a portfolio, I'm sure some of you are already aware, it can mean any number of things. Students work on their portfolios sometimes from a very young age. It includes all different types of work. But for students who are just starting on their portfolio, it is best to also have an art, or rather art, as an A-level, or an arts-related subject. And when universities talk about arts-related subjects, they mean subjects like design and technology. The benefit of having art is that a lot of students will use the work that they do in their A-level towards their portfolio. Okay. So this is a question that often comes up from students about studying law. We have a lot of students who are interested in studying law and they want to know what subjects they need. You don't need any subject to study law, but universities prefer if a student has at least one subject that is theoretical. So in other words, that they're using the English language. I think primarily this is to make life easier for students, because if you can imagine getting to university and looking at case studies all day and writing essays, it's going to be very difficult for them to do that when they've been studying just the sciences. So it's preferred if they have one essay-based subject, and that can be anything from economics, English language, English literature, geography, history. It is also worth noting that for countries outside of the UK, for students who want to apply for law, they also ask for, oddly enough, maths. So if you are considering the Netherlands, which tends to be a popular destination at the moment, then they should also have maths as one of their A-levels. For business, management, accounting, and all these related type of degrees, you don't need any other subject other than maths. So as you can see, maths is very important. You don't have to have accounting A-level to study accounting. You don't have to have business studies to study business. So you can apply for any one of these courses as long as you have maths. The other thing we advise students against is to have at A-level both economics and business studies. The reason for this is because we know the types of universities that they're aiming for, and quite often universities, for example, like the London School of Economics, they don't like to see this combination because they feel that there's too many overlaps between the two subjects. So they like to see 3 different subjects at A-level. Although, and this is to confuse things even more, you can apply for economics to the LSE with maths, further maths and economics, simply because their courses are very quantitative, that they're very mathematical. But they can, if they wish, choose economics and business studies together in year 6, and then they can drop one of these and continue with their other 3. So it just gives them that time to think about which subject they prefer and that they're good at. Okay. So there's going to be lots of discussions now. Students will be, this will be a topic of interest for them, and they're going to be talking to older students, they'll be talking to each other, they're going to be talking to you, they might be talking to graduates, and more often than not, they can get even more confused than they were to begin with. So it's really, really important, and one of the reasons why we have our meetings is that they get the right information from people whose job it is to advise them. So it's important for them to talk to you, their family, and I think that the best thing you can do for them is to try and encourage them to choose subjects that they're good at and that they enjoy, because these subjects will then lead them into the right direction to study a course that they'll do well in. And I think that really should be the ultimate aim for any student. So they should also be talking to their teachers. I always advise students when they're choosing subjects, either for IGCSE or for A-level, to get some good feedback about what the subject is really like. So, you know, sometimes they might be talking to their friends who are older, and they'll say to them, oh, you know, you don't want to pick that subject, it's really difficult. Or you don't want to pick that subject because you might end up with so-and-so teacher, you don't want to do that. So it's really important that they make the right decision for them. So the kind of questions they should be asking their teachers is, how much time will I need to invest in this subject? Does it have coursework? Do they enjoy coursework? If they don't like doing coursework, then maybe English literature or history might not be the right subject for them. Do they enjoy practical work, for example? They might like physics. So it's important to ask their teachers these kind of questions, to see the syllabus of the subject so they can get a better understanding of the topics that they're going to be studying to decide whether or not it's the right subject for them. Oops, sorry. And obviously with us, you know, we very much have an open door policy to our students. They're coming in and out of our office all day, every day. So, and you know, we enjoy talking to students. So both myself and Stella are down by the 6th and 7th form centre. They know where we are now, although I think we still have a few more year 5s to see. So they're very welcome to come and ask any question, no matter what it is, we'll be able to answer it for them. Okay, so just a very brief outline about what we do so that you know the kind of things that we get involved with. First of all, you can find details of our careers program on the school website. Your child would have also done the Moresby profile, which is a psychometric test that gives them sort of some information about the kind of career areas that they'd be suited to. That's not necessarily a Bible as such, it's just there to give them an indication about the kind of careers that they may be suited to. And they like to do these kind of tests, but it certainly shouldn't be the basis of choosing what it is they want to do. It's there to provide a guide. Unifrog, like the headmaster mentioned earlier, is a fantastic database. I can't recommend it enough. Myself and my colleague Stella use it all the time. It's a platform that provides them. They have their own username and password, and when they log in, they have access to a great deal of information. One of these is that they can search for English taught courses from all over the world. So they can search by different ranks, university ranks, by their subject area, and they can see what courses are available in English anywhere, together with their entry requirements, the subjects they need, what it's like to live in that city, how much it costs to live in that city. So we've been encouraging them to use Unifrog. By all means, ask them to give you their username, and you can also, you know, play around with the platform as well. So we have an internship support program, and what that is, it's basically a database of work experience. So we do things a little bit differently here. We don't have a week of work experience that a lot of other schools have. We have very much a flexible system. So, for example, students will come to us and they'll say, you know, I want to get some work experience in a law office. So we will put them in touch with people that are on our database, law offices, and they arrange amongst themselves a time that they can go and do work experience. So, for example, we might have students that will be going throughout the year, in the afternoon, maybe once an afternoon to do some work experience. We have students that might go for a week over Christmas or Easter. Some will go for longer in the summer. And I think really by the end of year 5, it's probably a good time for them to start looking to see what kind of internships or placements they can find. just to start doing a little bit of work experience, especially for the boys who are going to be going into the army, because they'd only have 2 summers left before they go. So, you know, throughout the year now, as they progress through the school, we're going to be running different workshops and sessions about all sorts of different things, applying to specific universities. When the time comes for them to apply to university, we help them complete their applications. That's either to the UK or to other countries in the EU. So they will come through the school to complete their university applications. We like to be finished with the boys before they go into the army. So if they're applying to the UK, we'll have their application on the system before they enter the army. With countries outside the UK that open much later, they open in October, we'll be inviting them back so that, again, if anyone's interested in applying to other countries, we can help them fill in their applications for that as well. We also have a graduates database, so if they want to talk, and this is something I encourage greatly because I think it's the most useful thing they can do, they can talk to our graduates who are studying the courses that they may be interested in, and it could be even at the university that they're thinking of going to. And this provides them with solid, first-hand, unbiased information about what it is like to study that course at that university. So we may hear our students say, yes, I'd love to study engineering because it sounds really great. And then they talk to a student and realise just how difficult it is to study engineering. They might change their minds, or they might consider something suited to them. So it's really useful for them to talk to our graduates who are at university. You'll be getting a letter after Christmas with summer programs. I'm not sure whether these will be running this year. I know a lot of them went online and a lot of students were actually doing these courses. Do have a look at that letter because it has programs on there that aren't just for the summer. There are some that run sort of throughout the year. More often than not, they'll get a certificate as well at the end of it that they can include on their university applications, and also give them some background about the courses that they might be thinking about. So have a look at that letter because they are tried and tested, these programs, and most of them are very good. And yeah, I mentioned before about the university applications. At the moment, we're very busy providing practice interviews to our students who thankfully have been invited for interview, and also admission test preparation classes that run after school. Please take a look at our Careers in News that we send out quarterly. We try to provide information that's up to date and relevant, and I think it's a very useful tool for parents to look at. This is our email if you want to send me an email with any questions about anything or anything that I've covered this evening. And I think that's it from me. Thank you. Oh, clicker's a bit slow, I'm afraid, yeah. There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Natasha. So the last slide from me at least, the process, quite simply, in January 2022, the online system will open and students and parents will receive instructions on how to enter the option choices online. The deadline is Monday the 7th of February. There are 2 maths options, single maths and double maths. So it's important, if you want double maths, you realise you have to do single maths, double maths, and another 2 options. We are not able to make any changes until August 2022. And I need to stress that the changes that students might want to make in August are only possible if we have room in the set and it works on the timetable. So we can't guarantee that every student will be able to get their 2nd or 3rd option choice when they change their minds. So I guess that's another reason for making sure that students really think carefully about their options now before they make the decision in February. And as Mrs. Ashodu outlined, there are many, many sources of help in the school. And we're here to assist wherever we can. Okay, and I think, yes, we're on questions and answers. So perhaps you'd like to ask us, Christina, who is our admissions officer in the exams and data office, is going to help with microphones. Well, she's going to give us the question, I think.
We also have some questions, I think, from colleagues joining us online as well. So, please, just one here at the back, and then we'll.
Good evening. Thank you very much for a very explicit presentation. May I ask you, which are the top scoring A-level subjects you have at the English school in terms of number of patients, number of students taking the exam versus grades? Which one would you say is your most successful subject?
Sure, very happy to answer that question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. You'll find all the results on the school website. Everything is there for you. In terms of the biggest uptake, as you can imagine, because we have an accelerated mathematics program, as the point I mentioned, mathematics is by far and away the most popular subject. 90% of students study mathematics at A-level. We also have high numbers of students studying economics, physics and chemistry. They would be the numerical aspect of things, the biggest numbers. Overall level of expectation at A-level is we would expect in a normal year where we have exams, about 70 to 75% of all exams at A-level would have an A or an A star.
Okay. So, maths would be single maths, Mr.
Maths would be single maths.
Single maths.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But it doesn't mean to say that other subjects don't get high grades. The sheer numbers come in maths because of the number of students taking it. Yeah.
But part of the reason for that is you will doubtless hear, as this year continues, your sons and daughters will say the year 5 mathematics is quite demanding. And the year 5 mathematics course is primarily to help them with the transition to A-level. So this year in mathematics, they're doing a lot of work. Good, because it means then in year 6, they can focus a little bit more on some of those elements of skills. But it also means in terms of their subject choice, they can afford to select other subjects to boost those essential skills. So my viewpoint, it's not for me to influence your decisions, but when you look at some of the university prospectus and some of the specific subjects, they often make comments about a range of subjects. They like to see a diversity and thinking ahead, because so many of our students are so able, enter very competitive careers. So having that breadth is a real advantage for them.
Just a final comment, and I will stop talking. Regarding maths, I remember 2 years ago, you mentioned something we call the bridge year or a bridge course. Is that still valid or is that gone now?
No, that's exactly what they do at the moment. This is
so 5 is the bridge year.
5 is the because, as Ms. Pantelides mentioned, at the end of year 4 last year, they very successfully did their IGCSE mathematics. So they're now taking a bridging qualification, which is an excellent foundation for A-level mathematics. And that's why we're very keen to stress that they will be able to cope with that very, very well.
Thank you. I got it. Thank you.
Hello. I just wanted to clarify something on the prerequisites you mentioned before on the grades to move on to year 6 on certain subjects.
The prerequisites, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think there were only 3 or 4 subjects. I cannot remember them. I just wanted to see,
Right, yes.
to understand your thinking on that, because if we specify 3 or 4 subjects and we leave the other subjects behind, maybe the students after a 2-year difficult time they've had, they probably leave the other subjects behind and not study enough just in order to meet the prerequisites. Unless I understood that part wrong.
Okay, the prerequisite is normally a 7, which is an A. Remember, the grades go from 1 to 9. The vast majority of our students get 7, 8, 9 in the subjects they want to study for A-level. The reason why we listed those particular subjects on the slide was because they have additional requirements. So, for example, economics says we would like our students to have a 7, which is an A, in economics, and a 6 at least, which is a B in English, which is a logical and fair expectation. And I have to say, if you look at the performance of our students, it's a very reasonable expectation. And we find that those students are likely to do much better when they get into the A-level group. I'm not sure if I've answered your question. Perhaps you want to put it another way? Okay. Yes.
Not be able to cope with additional how shall I say, requirements.
Okay. Yeah. I understand your point.
This is a general comment. It doesn't have to do with my child.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm talking for other parents as well.
That's a very good comment. And of course, we are concerned about the COVID grades. If you've looked at the grades over the last 2 years during the COVID period, our students have done exceptionally well, really exceptionally well. And as we understand from the exam boards, it's likely that in the June 22 sitting, again, there will be a certain level of generosity in the grades that are given because of the last 2.5 years that have been disrupted. So although I completely understand your concern, evidence shows us that that is really not an issue here. We don't expect it to be an issue, but as I said again earlier in the presentation, if there were to be a student who was generally strong in a subject, and because they're doing an exam for the first time next year and they came down in the external exam, we would of course consider their earlier performance in homeworks, etc. And we have a conversation between the head of department, pastoral, the exams office, and we do all we can to, facilitate the process so the student studies what they want to study, provided it is a reasonable expectation. Mr. Lamborn, did you?
Well, I think that's a very fair comment. I mean, you will be getting some additional advice about the exams 10 days or so. The outcomes for 22, you probably will have seen some of this on various websites. The exam boards have said that the grades are going to be at the midpoint of results from 2020 and from 2021. So in general, quite generous, but the prerequisites are there just really to reinforce for students, if you're going to do economics, there's quite a lot of extended writing. Having a good ability in English is going to be of benefit to you. As Pantley says, when it comes to August time, we look at the students, as you would imagine, on a case-by-case basis.
Are there some more questions?
Good evening. I'm not sure I understood from your presentation that Mrs. Pantelis did earlier. How many subjects are compulsory for year 6? I didn't understand. And how many are optional?
Okay, really there aren't any optional subjects in year 6. In year 6, students pick 4 options and then they have to do Greek or Turkish because they're going to finish their external qualification, their A-level, and then they have to do personal social health education, which is not assessed with a grade. It's assessed with an effort grade, but there are no exams or assessments. So basically, it's 4 options and Greek or Turkish, and then the personal social health citizenship education, which is not assessed.
What do you mean by 4 options?
Okay, 4 options. So what we've been talking about this evening is the children at the end of year 5 will have 9 IGCSEs, and they will be considering what A-levels they want to do in connection with their future career plans. So for example, if they want to do medicine, as Ms. Ashotis said, they need to choose chemistry, biology, maths, and then they need to choose another subject in year 6.
Okay, but sorry for interrupting, but those are options based on what they have taken already in year 5.
Yes, of course.
So it's not really, I mean, they have to continue on what they have chosen already?
Yes, but they're going to have 4 options out of 9 subjects that they've studied earlier. Actually, more than 4 options because they don't do business studies in year 4 and 5. So they will have 4 options out of 10 possible subjects.
4 options, you mean 4 subjects, right?
4 subjects, yeah. Yeah.
Just a clarification about physics. You said that for the students who are planning to study medicine, they can get permission to sit the AS level. Why does this not apply to the others?
The reason why we do it by exception, and it's primarily for students who want to study medicine in the Netherlands. By and large, as I mentioned at the start, 4 or 5 years ago, there were 125,000 entries at AS. The last year or so, it's gone to 9,000. So there are very few students who actually have that qualification. So the only reason we do it is to facilitate student choice. The Netherlands wants to see a public examination. So there could be a range of public examinations, and the AS is the one that suits best. So we, as always, what we try to do is to facilitate student choice and give them that flexibility, because the Netherlands for medicine is becoming an increasingly attractive option. But it's really, that's the group of about 10 or 12 students that would apply to in a given school year. It's just that we also have some people online.
Thank you. I'll just continue the question.
Sure.
So I'm just wondering, wouldn't it be better for students generally if they have the option of an AS official exam to be given the possibility to actually take it?
There are many possible ways that you can deliver an A-level course. When you have an AS exam, the problem is you have to finish your delivery by middle of April at the latest, because the AS exams are usually the first exams. They begin at the beginning of May. So it means already, for one reason or another, in Cyprus, our school year is quite short, our school days are quite short. So we want to try to have as long a period to deliver, because A-level questions, to get those A-star grades, you really have to be able to interpret, you have to be able to have independent learning. So what we've now chosen to do is to make the school year as long as possible. So in our year 6, we continue teaching until the middle of May. So we get at least 3 or 4 weeks longer, and that helps us then get a little bit more time in year 7, focus on more past papers so that the A-level grade can be the highest possible. So it's really, there are many ways that we can do it, but we find this is perhaps the most efficient. Because also when you introduce an AS, sometimes it can be available in October, it can be available in January, in June, and then all of a sudden the school just comes into an exam factory and it's just one exam after the other. Whereas now really the approach is not only qualifications, but also skills, work experience, and we haven't even touched on university admission tests, which is another very big component as well. That obviously comes towards the end of year 6 and then into year 7. So it's to do with that complexity and also the preparation for university. I mean, our year 7s, to be honest with you, have been preparing for September for interviews that are going to take place next week. So that's a busy schedule too, and that often can cause, not this year, but in an ordinary year, some time away from school. So we try to maximize, in general, the amount of contact time. So sorry, that was a long answer to
I think we also need to clarify that actually the ASs aren't available in certain subjects. Pearson changed a couple of years ago, and because the ASs were no longer being used in the UK, especially in state schools, so they cancelled them. So that was another reason. Yeah.
I was wondering, is there a possibility for a student not to drop the 4th subject on year 6?
Year 7?
Yeah,
yes,
I mean, at the end of the year 6.
Yes, the main sole reason that we would look at that is for people who want to do double maths plus 2 other A-levels, and we facilitate that. Issue with that whatsoever. The reason for that, as Mr. Shaw did said, is very often those are the students that want to do engineering. They do want to study engineering, doing the double math, really good medical background for year 1 and it's again a relatively small number, 10 or 12 students, and they have classes then in the afternoon. 7. That they like it because it's a small group and they can learn but also from each other at that stage. But it's a valuable group. Has gone.
Do we have any more questions? We have some questions online. Questions from the live audience.
My question is about university entries other than the UK and the Netherlands. For instance, Italy. Is the school going to offer support to the students and to us in our effort to, let's say, understand our options post-Brexit? And are the A-levels the only now, or should be something else in time, preparing for countries like?
Okay, so the simple answer is yes, we can support you in anything that they need to do. So with any application, we're able to help them complete the applications and show them what's available if they want to apply to a specific country. Now, applying to Europe is vast. Each country in Europe and each university within that country has its own requirements and perhaps admission tests and wants. So this is something that we usually discuss on an individual level when we see what the student wants to apply for, so that we can give them specific advice. we are going to be sending out a presentation which will sort of outline the process of applying to other countries in Europe. We're also going to be getting some of our students who applied last year to talk on the presentation. So that will give you a bit more information. But certainly, we have a lot of information to share. And, you know, over the last couple of years, we have become quite sharp in terms of our knowledge about applying to these countries. It's usually quite a straightforward application. Although Italy, I have to say, you're more restricted in terms of English taught courses. And I think that's probably why it's not so popular yet, because you're quite restricted in terms of how many courses, or rather what courses you can apply to that's in English. But yeah, I mean, by all means, if you have an interest in Italy, you can make an appointment with your child and we can talk about that.
And also linked to some of the students from last year that are currently there. And then a very important component of that is the Apolytirion. That has been a very useful qualification for applications across Europe, and it's extremely powerful. If you look at some of the universities, it's a very valuable qualification, and that's why it's very important that the students see the benefit that will bring to them. So with some questions online, we'll go through them relatively quickly, but I think it's a good opportunity for all of us just to listen to some of the queries.
We'll take up questions that haven't been answered. We've answered the one about dropping one subject in year 7. Obviously, we have double maths available. Yep. For somebody who wants to do 4 A-levels with double maths. What is the difference between maths single and maths double? Well, Mr. Lambon is the maths specialist.
Generally about 60 students, between 60 and 80 students will study double mathematics. Double mathematics is for students who love mathematics. They are students who talk about mathematics, find mathematics extremely enjoyable, and want to take it that little bit further. It goes further in the 3 areas, the pure, mechanics and statistics. It's a very useful qualification, particularly if you want to study maths, engineering, or indeed economics. Some of the statistics that's covered within the course is of great benefit for university economics. But it's a demanding course and it requires a lot of commitment. And as the gentleman at the front was asking, I think you need to think about some of these things in terms of time. Your children at the moment spend roughly 6 periods in school. 10% of their time in school is spent on each subject. If you choose double maths, the amount of time you'll be in the mathematics classroom is considerable. In year 6, each student has 13 periods per subject. So if you choose double maths, it's 26 periods of maths per fortnight, which means it's in any given day, it's maths, and then some more maths. So that's why you have to be, let's say, an enthusiastic mathematician. The single maths course, again, is a really good level of mathematics, a very good foundation. And one of the reasons why it's so popular is because the students have such a good mathematical grounding already, and it's a course that they generally can enjoy. But again, what they don't realize is that because they're so strong in the mathematics, they can look at a broader range of subjects. And it would be good to see, particularly post-Brexit, more variety in terms of that 4th AS. You know, there are a huge range of subjects here that they would benefit from and would widen their horizons a little bit and give them that little bit of diversity. But that's something you might want to talk to them about individually.
Thank you. We have a question online here. Someone asking whether they could do French instead of Greek as a second language as an A-level. The answer to that is, of course, that Greek, or Turkish indeed, as an A-level is highly respected, and a student who wanted to do French could do that as an additional A-level. All our students will have 4 A-levels anyway, because they will have the 3 they finish in year 7, plus they will have Greek or Turkish that they finish in year 6. We have some more questions. Yes.
Okay, so there's a question about applying to universities in Ireland and whether it's a good idea to have virtual tours at the universities. So we've made quite a few applications to Ireland for our students. I think it's a very good option. It has some very good universities. Their application process is, how I would describe it really, yeah, different. I remember submitting an application and not realizing it had been submitted. It's so quick. But they're very ruthless, especially the sort of places like Trinity College, in that they work with a rank. So there's no personal statements. Basically, it's just sort of the best academic students that get in. In terms of virtual tours, I mean, most universities nowadays will have virtual tours online, and they still call them open days. It's just they're virtual, and there's a site called opendays.com, and you can find sort of virtual tours from all the universities on that site.
Question about GCSE art. A parent is asking if my child has done GCSE art outside school, which initially started as a hobby, can they still be considered for GC art at school? Yes, that's not a problem. And I would say the same for French. If they've studied French or German or Spanish outside school as an extra and they want to take it at A level, as long as they've done the IGCSE, that's fine. There's a question about geography. So geography students will have an AS in year 6. Yes, because they do a different specification. They do the Cambridge International specification, and the reason why that is because we found as a school, and the geography department will confirm this, that the Pearson did not meet the needs of international students in terms of the research and coursework, the practical study aspect. So that's why they will have an AS in geography. There might be a few more global perspectives and why it's not offered as an AS. The skills indeed of global perspectives are excellent. A lot of transferable skills there. At the moment, we don't offer it. If in the future we had enough interest, it's quite possible we would offer it. Other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. There's a question about medicine in the EU and 4 A levels. Can they do math? Yeah. Only as double maths. Okay, so yeah, no, they wouldn't be able to do 4 A levels in the morning program. They would have to do 3 A levels in the morning program. But they don't need 4 A levels to study medicine in the EU. They need 3 A levels and 1 AS level. So there's a question here about sharing information about scholarships. So presumably that's a question for scholarships in the UK, and that's a very different system to America. We are starting to see more scholarships from the UK. We sort of seem to be getting a lot of emails from universities offering international, overseas rather, students scholarships. And so there's no one database where all this information is available, but it is very easily accessible on the university websites. And they're growing in number. In fact, we even saw students sort of getting scholarships last year. With the change in fees, what this means is that there's not going to be a standardized cost for UK universities like it is now, which is sort of 9,250, I think. There's going to be a different range of fees. So you may be studying economics at one university and paying, you know, 20,000. You may be studying economics at another university and paying a lot more. So they're not going to be standardized. There will be sort of cheaper universities, if you like, in the UK, and they are offering scholarships. There may not be the full amount, full scholarships, but they are offering sort of 3,000, 5,000. Some have sort of global, they're sort of big global scholarships, which could be even more than that. And these you apply for not before, but after you've applied. University. More often than not, they're available after you've applied.
I think we've answered most of the other questions. There's one other question which we need to research about pre-settled status and the number of students who have been accepted with that. We don't know. We'll have to find out.
Okay, so I mean, pre-settled status, this is a bit of a tricky one because things tend to change. Regulations, rules and regulations tend to change all the time in England while they're still trying to fumble their way through. But what we tend to be seeing is that students with pre-settled status in England are getting home fees. So basically what's been happening is that, at least for the students that have been applying this year, universities have been sending them fee questionnaires to fill in. And subject to sort of successful completion of that questionnaire, they have been getting home fees if they have the pre-settled status. This isn't the same of Scotland, though, who have just recently announced that students with pre-settled status will be classed as overseas for fee-paying purposes. That's not the same, though, of students, just to complicate things, that have a UK passport and living in the EU. If they have a UK passport, then they will be eligible for, just to confuse you even more, rest of the UK fees. So whilst they won't be paying Scottish fees, which are very low, they will be paying what other British students pay, which is 9,500 to study in Scotland. That's if they have a UK passport. Everyone else, pre-settled status or not, in Scotland will have to pay overseas fees. At least that's the information we have from Edinburgh, and I think it looks as though it's going to be the same for other universities also.
Listen, thank you very much. I hope we answered all your questions. As I said at the start, this is about individual choice. Tonight's the start of the process, so please do take the invitation to come back and speak to us, either individually or collectively with your sons or daughters. We're here to help you, and we appreciate very much your time. So thanks very much for coming. Thank you.